Let me now hand over the word to our keynote speakers, namely our first guest with the topic From Project-Centric to Product-Led Organization. This presentation outlines why Agile is not simply a delegated tick box exercise, but a fully implemented process that follows a clearly defined strategy. And our speaker is the author of the best-selling books Organizational Mastery and Adapt, which have helped countless organizations achieve their goals. Please welcome Luis Gonçalves.
Hello. So it was not that difficult to pronounce my name. So she came very scared. Oh my God, how do I pronounce this name? So it's very easy. So thank you. Thank you, Marian, for the invitation. Most of you don't know about Košice for me. I'm sorry about my pronunciation. I know I don't know how to pronounce Košice, but you will give me the discount. So it's a very special city. I was here first time in 2007. So it was a very interesting year because basically it's more or less a couple of years after I started my career. So I started most of my learnings that I will share today. I started in this city. So thank you so much for welcoming me. So who is? Let's see. Oh, it works. Good. So who is Luis? Luis Gonçalves is a Portuguese guy. Started his career almost 20 years ago. He's a software engineer by education, by heart, author. So I've been writing a couple of books during the last couple of years. And I'm here today to explain you or to share a little bit about my knowledge. And I want to start this talk asking you a very simple question. Do you think if we deliver something on time, on budget, with quality, do you think that we are successful? And please, if you think yes, raise your hand. I don't believe there are so little people that believe that we are successful with this. No, but help me here. So, who believes that on time, on budget, with quality, it's a successful project? Cool. So I have a question for you. You have an app on your phone, or you have the possibility to download an app to your phone that was done on time, with budget, with quality, but doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever for you to install it. Is it a successful product? So this is what I'm going to talk today, right? So during the last years, we have been building companies to develop projects, and it was perfectly fine. Right? But nowadays, we are entering, or we already entered a long time ago, in the era of products. And we really need to rethink the way how we build companies and the way how we do software and the way how we do digital products. And that's what I'm going to talk today. So who knows this company? Or at least who knew, right? So this is where I started my career, right? So why I'm bringing this stuff today to you? Because I wanted to explain a little bit all my background. So I brought a talk to you that's a little bit of my background and story so that you can engage better with me. A lot of people ask, and there is a lot of case studies in universities, MBAs, et cetera, talking about Nokia. So why Nokia did collapse, right? And no one talks about it. So arrogance. Arrogance is one of the things that destroyed us. So I still remember 2005 in Finland when I started. We were very powerful. It was the most interesting company in the world. We were doing $25 billion a quarter. I have the most expensive, interesting parties of my life. And 2 years later, when iPhone came into the market, everything changed. But still, we kept receiving emails, internal emails saying, oh, don't worry, these guys don't even have copy-paste. That's the reason that we should not care about these guys. Google, they are search engine. They don't know how to make phones. So we actually did not really took into consideration the market. So if you leave this room with one simple idea today, do not believe that we are too good to fall, okay? Nokia was 125,000 people all over the world, and in 3 years, Nokia completely collapsed. So if there is something that you learn out of this room today or from my talk today, remember, you are not too big to fail, okay? So arrogance was the main reason. Lack of agility. So we are talking about agility today, so how do you actually are talking about agility and you say Nokia was not agile? So Nokia was very agile on the team level. The Scrum, Agile methodology was very good, but on the organization, on the enterprise level, we are very, very slow. So no one knew, but for example, every time that we launched a phone on the market on Christmas, that phone was 1 year later. So no one knew because we launched it on the market, everyone was clapping, everyone was happy with the new model, but basically the phone was always 1 year later. So lack of agility. And even if we would be very fast and agile to put the phone on the market, I still believe, and that's my personal opinion, that we would not be able to compete with Apple or Google. Why? Because we did not have a business model to support the digital era. As you know, iPhone, Apple, Google, Android, so on, what matters is not just the hardware, what matters is the whole ecosystem. And at that time, we did not have any ecosystem whatsoever to actually support the proper business model. So even if we would be able to put a phone on the market that would be able to compete on the hardware point of view, we would not be able to survive without a business model. So the giant collapsed. So I just want to really start this talk today to really think that no one is safe. So the world's changed. Average lifetime of companies 50 years ago was around 44 years. Nowadays, the average lifetime is around 7 years. So be very careful and take this into consideration. After Nokia, I spent some time working in some different companies, and I collect a lot of the experience. So I decided to write a blog. So I was sharing a lot of my experience, and that blog reached quite a lot of interesting viewers, readers, so I decided why not open my own business. And I was lucky enough to start my biggest project here in this company. And this is what I'm bringing today to you, okay? I don't know if in Slovakia it's Metro Macro, but it's one of them. So it's Metro? Okay, because in Portugal, for example, is Macro, some other countries are Macro, depends for property rights, reasons, naming, whatever. So Metro started this project. It was a very, very interesting company. There was 2,000 software engineers, right, all over the world, and think how the heck is a supermarket? But don't forget, Macro or Metro, it's all over the world. So it's 120-something countries all over the world. Every country has different laws, there's different types of checkout, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a huge, 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 huge monster behind it. So I arrived there, and we found what I think we believe in most of the companies we find. Too many silos, a lot of politics, crap, a lot of toxic environment, and this is the most normal. I'm pretty sure here no one finds this stuff. Everyone is very healthy. All our companies are very nice cooperation environment, so we don't have any politics, but I'm sharing my experience, so just try to follow it. So yeah, we met, or we dealt with that. And it was very, very triangle driven, right? So the requirements were given to us, and they were not really concerned, I think, in some of our companies that we see all over the place. They are not so much concerned about the business needs. We have a bunch of requirements that needs to be done. We have a bunch of stories, we deliver, that's on check. But actually, are we really having any business impact whatsoever? Are we solving any customer problems, right? So we saw a lot of these. Traditional budget process. Who steals, and I don't accept the same answer as the first one, who still use traditional budgeting process in their companies? And when I mean traditional budgets, is that kind of stuff that depends on the country, but usually September, October, you spend a lot of interesting times fighting with Excels and buying sofas and flowers to make sure that you spend all the budget so that no one steals the budget for the next year. So I think a lot of you still use that, right? No one used it because no one raised their hand, so yeah, okay. Let's assume that you use it, right? So this is what we had. A company really using traditional budgeting, very allocated to the department, very allocated to that specific teams. Because it was a very project-oriented company, it was very thought in terms of beginning and end. So we have an initiative, we ramp up a bunch of teams, we'll go and look around who is free, what are the skill sets that we need. We bring all these people together, we assemble a team, but then after 6 months, 12 months, we basically disassemble everything and start again everything again from scratch. So if you start thinking about, we did a study last year in one of our customers, just a process of ramping up everything, getting budget approvals, architecture approvals, etc., etc. Every time we wanted to start something, it would take around 7 to 8 months. Now imagine 7 to 8 months just to prepare everything. Then we will talk a little bit, one slide in front of us, about cost of delay, but this is if you start to take into consideration the money that you are losing every week for not having this kind of stuff in the market, losing market share, etc., etc. 7 months just trying to put stuff up and running, not producing anything, just administrative work. Imagine the loss for the company that you have. All projects, that's what I just said, all projects had huge waste and governance model, right? Because you need to get everything what I just said. Value delivery at the end, that doesn't mean that all project companies do that. If you are a project-oriented company, but if you do Agile, of course, you don't need to deliver at the end. But in that case, they were actually doing a lot of waterfall still. And I have a very curious question now. It's from my personal curiosity. Who is still using waterfall in this room? I love that. Everybody. Fred is so mean, my God. Yeah, okay, cool. So at that time, the value was always delivered. It's very traditional from both ways of doing. And of course, the learning was done at the end, and people could not really react in a very fast way to the problems that were happening in the project. No innovation whatsoever. Does any one of you has dedicated innovation strategy in your company? Now you see, now I turn the question around, so now I get my answer. I just put it on a negative. There was one person that says, yeah, okay, thank you so much. So there was no innovation, because when you are in project, think a bit like me. If you are in the project mode, you are just thinking about delivering a bunch of features, right? So you have this bunch of requirements, you deliver them, it's done, check, go do the next one. So you are not really thinking about innovation. You are not thinking, how do we actually go to the next stage? So now you're saying, Louis, my God, you are just talk. What did you do? So let's start talking about the interesting part. So the first thing what we did is, as I told, it was to around 2,000 people. So what we did was we got together with the managing directors of the different units, the CEOs, the architects, and we identified what were the possible clusters in the entire organization that we could use to break them, all these people, into small startups. That's exactly what we did. So basically we identified around 12 startups. So we were groups of 150, 250 people, depending which one, okay? And basically we brought this big monster, this big, huge monster of engineers, and we broke them into small startups. And I want to be very clear, it was virtual stuff, okay? So we did not go there and we did not build any legal entities whatsoever. So we left it prepared for that, but it was more a virtual way of working, so we separated in a virtual way. So we created 12 startups. And this startup had its own dedicated teams. So we built those startups, and we thought that this startup has a product, meaning there is no beginning, there is no end. There is a beginning, there is an end, but we don't know when, because the product is something that can take several years, right? So we have its own dedicated teams, meaning that we do not need to have all this governance model waste of asking for people, asking for availability, asking for whatever approval from the architect. So we had dedicated people. It was a continuous construction, incremental of a backlog of a product, right? And who knows what OKRs here? I heard the word today, but do you guys know what OKRs mean? Okay, so I'll give 1 minute explanation. OKRs, basically, it's a very cool tool that was created in Intel. Andy Grove, the founder of Intel, on the 70s, and became very popular because at that time, Andy was working with John, which was one guy that was the early investor in Google. And then John wrote a book, Measure What Matters, on the 2018, if I'm not mistaken. OKRs, it's a very easy tool to help companies to translate strategy into operations. So I see it as agility on the enterprise level. So you have Scrum, Kanban on the team level, and OKRs is the piece that actually brings the whole agility to the top level, okay? So basically means that you have strategy at 3-5 years, then you have goals for 1 year, then you break those goals into quarterly goals, and those goals will feed the backlog, and the backlog will be built based on those goals. And with that approach, you are actually building your backlog based on strategic goals. So you are actually building something that has true impact on the business. So you are not just delivering user stories, you are delivering user stories that are connecting to the strategy, that are connecting to really creating a business impact. So that's what we do. So we had these startups, and basically we implemented OKRs throughout the whole startups so that we would be able to actually have proper objectives, strategic objectives. And this was very interesting because the mindset shifted completely. Because I remember one of the biggest countries that we had at that time was France, was putting a lot of requirements. And because we were, before that, a project-oriented company, they were giving a lot of requirements to us. And after the moment that we actually started to use OKRs, we trained them in OKRs, and we start to ask them, no, we don't want requirements. We are the ones doing the product here. So what you will give to us, it's basically objectives. So what is the business problem that you want to get solved? What is the strategical goal that you want to get solved? And basically, instead of giving us requirements, they start to giving us strategical objectives. And then we would translate that into features, the way how we wanted, because the product was ours, right? But basically, they were asking for business impact, and we were delivering features from the product that would deliver the business impact that they want. Lean budgeting, that's what we started to apply. So lean budgeting is a very simple concept, which is not that easy to implement, but lean budgeting means it's budgeting on agile way, let's say. So what does it mean? It means that each startup has had his own bag of money. So what do? So basically, you see, every startup has a lot of people in their organization, so you measure what are the salaries, what are the costs of running that startup. And from the enterprise point of view, you have a budget associated to that startup. And basically every 3 months, and that's the different thing is, instead of like 1 year, you can do it in every 3 months. So every 3 months, you actually sponsoring the OKRs. So you have these objectives, strategic objectives that the enterprise and the stakeholders outside give to you, and you have a bunch of money to actually sponsor those OKRs. So this is the money that you have to build those OKRs. And every 3 months, we would go through the same process, because every 3 months we could see if we deliver, if we did not deliver. And the good thing of lean budgeting is that we can apply a little bit of estimation as we do it in normal Scrum. So if you think about last quarter, we spent 1 million. The product is the same, the stuff is the same, the people are the same. Might be that we run out 10%, so we increase 10%, maybe that we need 10% more. So you just play around. So instead of spending yearly or spending weeks in this Excel beautiful files, you just basically make a very lean approach saying, okay, we spend that amount of money, most probably that next quarter will be the same, and it's much more faster. With a huge advantage, because every 3 months you can really see if there is something on the market that is worth pursuing. Imagine. So when I was 2020, I had a project in Saudi Arabia with a bank where basically they were doing a feature where enabled people to split the bill on the restaurant. So you would come to the restaurant and you would split the bill on live on the restaurant. But if you remember, 2020 was this really nuts, beautiful virus that popped up, right? So everyone was at home. So basically, there was no sense to develop a feature that would allow payments on the restaurant when everyone was closed at home. So what they did, from the strategic point of view, because they were already very fast adapting with money and those OKRs, they just simply killed that entire initiative, project, product they had, and they put all their money immediately and all the team in a team that was working on integration with Play Store, the PlayStation Store. And no wonder why they got like 25% increase on customer revenue in just 2 months. Because they had this flexibility to immediately shift the entire budget from one place to another, and they reiterate the needs, the goals, and they were able to shift it. So this is where you can actually apply agility on the enterprise level. Doesn't matter if you are doing Scrum, if you don't have this visibility on the strategic level and that flexibility, you cannot shift the entire company going to another direction. Cost of delay. So it's a very simple concept, but very rare to be used in the companies, but it's very powerful. Cost of delay, it's the amount of money that we are losing for not having something on the market. And there are 4 types of cost of delay. So market share, so basically if you don't put stuff on the market, we might lose market share. So revenue, increase of revenue, so we put this feature on the market and we are losing money for not having this feature. Improvements, so imagine automation, we want to put something out in automation and we are losing X amount of month per week because we don't have this automated. Or if you prefer, avoiding penalties. So some years ago I worked with a bank, and basically the way how they were prioritizing was working on the biggest fine from EU. So they did not know what to do, so they knew that if they would not be live by X of December, they would get a huge fine. So we started to prioritize by the cost of delay with the biggest fine. But most of the companies do not do this because this requires a very, very, very good understanding of the business, and it requires a lot of assumptions that a lot of managers are not ready for it, right? So we don't know anything most of the time, so we need to assume, and a lot of people don't like assumptions. Build communities of practice. So who knows what communities of practice are? So a couple of them, good. So communities of practice, for the ones that do not know, are communities of people that have interest in a specific topic. So for example, Scrum Mastership, product ownership, management, whatever, architecture, Q&A, automation. So what we do is basically bringing all these people from these startups together, because these startups, as I said, with 150, 200 people, there was a lot of people, there was a lot of knowledge. So what we did was we incentivized communities of practice and bring all these people together every 2 weeks to share their knowledge and practices so that they could spread their knowledge within the organization. And not only within the startup, but cross startups. So imagine all the Scrum Masters from Product 1 to the Scrum Master for Product 2, Product 3. So we actually would create a virtual matrix, but in a very different way and purpose of the normal traditional matrix organization. We did it for purpose of knowledge sharing. Because we started to do a lot of stuff with Scrum, Kanban, we started to get a lot of learnings on a very frequent basis, and we were able to put a lot of the stuff into the market very fast. So we were able to put things on the market every 2 weeks, but to be very transparent, we were putting every 6 months because it was a huge challenge for all the stakeholders. Product discovery. Who knows what product discovery is? Who implements product discovery in their companies? Oh, so many, my God. And that's exactly what I was thinking and saying previously. Because most of the times we think in terms of projects, we are thinking about features, delivering features, check, that's it. We are not really thinking about products in terms of products, right? So we are not thinking in doing features, and at the same time we should have a product discovery process, and process discovery process is nothing more than going to the market and understand what are the customer needs and validate that actually what they want is what we are building. Because if you don't have this product discovery, you have a current customer that is losing so much money because he's spending 3 months in doing development, and then after the 3 months he goes to the customers and say, the customers say, we don't want anything like this, it's nothing what we want. So we have completely misunderstood what the customer wants. So basically what they are doing now, they are basically working 3 months ahead. It's a called parallel development train, which is basically the designers, the usability people, et cetera, goes in front of the development, validates what the market wants, and validates that what they want is what it's really needed. And then when it's validated, they put it on the development cycle. So we were able to deliver several times. And this, then if you want, guys, we implemented all this stuff basically in Metro. So it's one of my first books, so if you want, just ping me and I will give you the PDF. But this is what I was mentioning. So we have yearly objectives in the beginning, feeds the portfolio, company portfolio. Then we have budgeting, sponsoring the portfolio. We have quarterly alignment. We have normal development, retrospective from the business point of view, and incremental innovation. Okay? So, of course, this changed completely the company. So I still remember the guys in Paris extremely happy because finally they started to say, finally someone understands us, someone really is interested about our business results, someone is really eager to help us to make money. The customer satisfaction was much better from the stakeholders. We saw the usability from end customer much better. We saw engagement was extremely high from the all our employees. So it was a really huge success. But there was still missing, from my point of view, there was still some stuff missing to be a really, really product company. Because we were not able to really attract customers. We had a really cool project. We had our product, we had a beautiful piece of software, but we were not able to generate sales. We were not able to increase the sales to sell this beautiful product. And we did not have a way to identify, we had thousands and thousands of people using our product on a daily basis, but we were not generating any insights whatsoever about that product. So this was something that was really bothering me. So then COVID came, and I thought to myself, well, some people get little chubby at home, so I don't have anything to do, so I will stay at home and creating something new. That's how I created actually this crazy idea, which is I'm bringing today, the Adapt. So the Adapt is nothing more, it's an approach, a framework, a methodology, whatever you want to call it, to help you to actually adapt your project-centric company to a product-led company, okay? So there are 5 pillars. First one is approach. How do we engage, attract, educate customers in the digital era? Data, how do you actually generate insights to your company or to a product? Third pillar, agility. Fourth pillar, product, so product strategy. And fifth pillar, transformation. The transformation pillar was this round thing that I just showed you 1 minute ago. Okay? As a result of this, we usually get recognition as a whole, but especially the leader. So I remember in Metro, the CEO got huge attention from the newspapers, the same in Portugal with some other companies. It's always very interesting to see people getting recognition. This is why we do what we do. Profit increase, because we're able to reduce cost of delay, we are able to reduce the costs of the company, we're able to put stuff into the market much faster, so actually we're able to get much more money. Total alignment with the OKRs, things, the whole strategy, not only within the teams, but within the stakeholders as well, as I explained the France case, and happy employees, resulting in products that customers love. So, and now I'm going to run with you these 2 pillars that I said that I was missing, because these 3 last pillars, it was what I explained. So I want to take you through this journey on the stage so that I could teach you what we would be able to do so that you can think on your company. Approach pillar. So think about Metro. In Portugal, it's all over the place because the company is French, but it's very interesting what they are doing in Portugal. I don't know if they are doing in other countries. Leroy Merlin. So it's a super big shop of construction for housing, stuff like windows, whatever. So what they do is they have huge amount of workshops on their company, on their stores, teaching people how to do things, renovation at home. They have a huge YouTube channel explaining people how to do changes and renovations at home. And now you already imagine, you go to YouTube, how to change a window, and then you have a very beautiful YouTube video from Leroy explaining how to change the window. And then guess what? They have immediately a cart with all the products that you need to buy in order to do the renovation. And of course, the products are their products, right? So they create a huge ecosystem of cooking classes, of renovation, of lots of different things, right? To really engage the customers, to collect people, to collect leads, to really basically bring them. In my own case, in my company, we have a really big strategy for content. So we do a lot of blog posts, the books, podcasts, webinars, and it's very interesting because organically we are not selling anything, and we are bringing a lot of people into the site. So we are educating them, we are inspiring them. So you need to really take into consideration, in today's world, no one wants to be sold, right? If you go to buy a car nowadays, most probably you know more about the car than the guy that's selling you the car. because you already did your investigation, you already did your studies. So you need to inspire the people to actually learn more about your products and giving knowledge, so that you can ask for the sale. So in this case, metric could be the same. They could start cooking lessons, they could start doing courses about, because they have a very strong part of wine. It was very popular in Düsseldorf. So you could really start to do all these kind of workshops to engage the customers, to inspire them, and then lead them to the shop. Data pillar. So in Metro, they were starting a project that's very interesting, where they could measure the customer engagement and loyalty. So what they were doing was they were able to see, okay, we know that if the customer within the next 4 months, within the first 4 months, he purchases 15 times, you will have a 95% chances to become a very engaged customer. So they used data to analyze customer behavior, and then what they did with that was they had a very strong onboarding process, so that when people would come in, they would be able to purchase more and more and more, so that they would reach that number in order for them to become an advocate of the brand. And another example that they were using weather information based on sun and the weather, warm weather, to manage the stock. Right? So imagine next week, there will be, in 2 weeks, there will be high temperature. The beer that will be sold will be much higher than last week that was very cold. So they were able to actually manage much more and much better the stock with the data information, and with that save a lot of money in warehousing. So this is the 5 pillars that you can think in terms of moving your project-centered organization to a product-led company. So I have kind of a summary if you want to take a picture or whatever, because this is kind of the points that I believe that makes a lot of sense, and it's kind of a checkpoint, it's kind of an idea for you to think about it. Traditional budget versus lean budgeting, defined by output instead of solving customer problems. Fixed requirements versus adapt to changing. Ramp-up teams, dedicated ramp-up, ramp-down, dedicated long-lived teams. Led by a project manager, like product manager, starting with the beginning and end. Long-lived project until the customer is happy. Doesn't always to stand value alone by itself. A product always gives a value by itself. Change process involving needs, deliver at the end incrementally, handed over a business owner to customers, learnings at the end, continuous improvements, reports, delivers time budget, report impact, no concerns about data strategy in traditional marketing versus digital funnel with marketing. And basically this is, I think, several points that you can think about it. And you might think that it's very simple, but if you really start to think about those, it's a huge transformation, a huge mindset that you need to require in your organization in order for you to implement all that stuff. So, as a nice present, I wanted to give a physical copy of the book, but my publisher didn't help me, so I could not print it to you. But in any case, you can add me in LinkedIn if you want, and you can download the book, Product First, which basically is the summary of everything what I told you today. It's completely for free. You can download it. It was launched 2 weeks ago, become an Amazon bestseller, so it's a nice gift that I have. I wanted a physical copy for you, but I was not able. So I can give you the PDF, and then I might be able to work something with Marian to actually give something to you. Guys, thank you so much. This is what I had. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, I'll be here. I need to try some Ruska, and just get me, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Luis, very much. If I can, I would like to ask you to stay here with me, because I'm sure that we're going to have some questions at Slido, and I would like to apologize that we didn't share this QR code with you at the start, but you can just put it on your mobile phones right now and ask questions. I have a few. Okay. For you, I would like to ask about the triangle driven, because when you said that, okay, who thinks that we've got a successful project when we have it like on time, with quality, and on budget? Mm-hmm. But is it Okay, let's put away that if it's successful or not, but is it like possible? I think it's too perfect, right? Isn't it like that just two ways are always right? Like just we have it on time, we have it with quality, but we are not able to do it on budget and etc. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. So the three parts are the perfect world, right? Usually we never get the three parts. But you know what? My idea was even with the three parts, which is the perfect world, is not enough anymore. Right? Because you can have this perfect world and still doesn't solve a problem for a customer. So that's the idea. So even on the best of the best case, still does not work. We need to think from the customer point of view. And okay, there is a lot of people that can defend, but the requirements take into consideration, the user needs, but 99.999 doesn't take into consideration. So that's what I meant.
One more question from my side about because you were talking about inspiring, engaging customers, about telling them how digitization is important, but how about employees? Because I have to say that I come from a corporation and sometimes from the communication department, and sometimes it was really tough to get all the employees to do something, like to sign up on time or to try some new, application or tool or something. Do you have experience with something like that it's really maybe takes longer time to kind of inspire employees in a big company to be agile or to do
so I will be very
processes?
provocative on this one. So there's a lot of movements, happy employee, blah, 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 blah. So I'm very straightforward, I'm Portuguese. So I think that most of it's BS. Why? Because I truly believe happiness and culture is driven by structure, okay? It doesn't matter if you have an innovation strategy in place, if you have, for example, a system where HR gives you bonus for achieving the normal stuff, no one will try innovation because they know already that they can fail and they will not achieve their money, right? So no one will try the innovation. So what I'm trying to say is, the structure that you have, the systems that you have in place will drive the culture, will drive the behaviors, will drive the happiness. So what I implemented here with the rest of my guys is, it helps on that because we change the structure. Instead of having this huge, big company, you have small startups. Instead of having someone telling you the requirements, because people don't think, but if you think about requirements, someone comes to you and say, hey, this is how you need to do it. You don't want that. You need to know what is supposed to be done, and then I will figure it out how. And this new approach that we use actually allows it, because OKRs tell you what needs to be achieved. How you achieve it, it's up to you. So if you change the structures, if you change this way of empowerment, people start to become much happier. Of course, it will take a lot of time. It's not something that comes out in a couple of months, because it takes months and months and months. But I truly believe this is one of the solutions to go. It's not sending everyone to really happy masters or whatever I see everywhere, but it's my personal opinion. I think culture is driven by structure.
I totally agree, because this is what it's about, right? Not giving instructions, but engaging them and for them to be part of the process, right? Let's get the questions on the slide. How did the startups compete for the budget?
So it's not that very different, because the thing is, there was like if I remember, it was 2,000 million euros budget for the entire enterprise, and there was products with some strategies. So basically, on the very, very, very high level, they could basically assign budget depending on the priorities of the business. So the budget was assigned on the really, really higher top level of the organization. And of course, there is proper structure around it, but there was not a CEO was fighting with each other. It was like a common, imagine a pie chart budget, and then they were having slices depending on the strategy of the company, what they wanted to achieve for each startup, and so on, so on. So companies that were just investing in the future, they were getting maybe a little bit less money or trying to figure out if it was a valid idea. Companies that were bringing a lot of the value to the company, they were getting more money.
Okay, now I cannot see slide. Thank you. You're mentioning instant shifting of budget to other product within startup model. What happens with the team you are taking the budget away?
So the team that you are taking the budget away, it doesn't get a loan. So basically, when you decide that doesn't make sense to continue that team, you use that people to assign them to another product. That's why in Saudi Arabia we were able to make it very fast, because basically you were supposed to do something, and then those guys were assigned directly to the other product, and we reinforced the other product to size and team, right? So people will always get the job. They will not get fired. We will just use the people on more strategic, important projects for the organization. And hopefully you are not doing that every 3 months, right? So just because you have the capability of doing does not mean that you will do it. In Scrum, you have the capability to release it every 2 weeks. Doesn't mean that you release every 2 weeks. But having the capability for doing it, it's where you want to be.
How specifically do you measure the success of the startup teams you talked about on a regular basis?
So that's an interesting question. So on the product pillar, there is the part of the product strategy, and the product head of product, executive CEO of that startup, whatever, they need to have metrics. So that's one of the conditions, that every startup needs to have their own dashboard with their metrics that they decide that makes sense for them, right? So it's a collection of metrics, and it depends on the company, depends on the business goal, but every startup needs to have a metric that every 3 months you can see how they are performing, and then you take a decision, does it make sense to continue, or does it make sense to not continue, and just shut it down and reinforce the other people. So it's with that.
What was the buy-in for the management when you presented the startup strategy?
Well, it was the management that actually asked for help for that. So I went through the CEO. So if you don't go through the CEO, good luck on it. So this only works if you are going through very, very, very high level, right? So, and I can tell you that every week he had a lot of managers asking him to put us out of the company. So that's how the buy-in was. But the CEO bought the idea, so we were able to do it. If the CEO doesn't buy the idea, don't even try it, in my opinion, because it will be a failure.
How would you sell Agile budgeting to old school waterfall management board?
Let me answer with another question. Can you help people that don't want to be helped? That's my answer.
That's maybe the employees I talked about, right? Because there are always, I don't like the word haters, that they just don't go with the flow.
You cannot push people that do not believe the ideas. Actually, on the Organization Master, there is one of the first paragraphs on my Organization Master. It's very clear there. If you are reading this book to see if I'm convincing you, stop right now. This book is for people that already know that have a problem and want help. If you want help, proceed. If not, just stop it. We cannot help people that want to be helped. So that's where I focus.
How many startups failed beyond repair, and how?
Oh, that's a very good question that I need to be very transparent. I don't know.
I see. What were the key factors which contributed to success of transformation done in Metro? What were the mandatory key points?
CEO support. Without it, you cannot do it. And there is some other stuff. So CEO, and get supporters in all different levels. Don't make the mistake that just because you have the CEO, you are fine, because there will be a lot of people trying to screw you up on the way. So try to get Scrum Masters. They are awesome supporters, because Scrum Masters love these ideas. They are the ones, imagine, come a crazy consultant team, right? Supporting all these crazy ideas that no one ever listened to them. So actually, it's really fantastic. Product owners help them to understand, finally you have a decision for your product. How great it is. You are not a secretary anymore. So get people that are supporters within the organization, and get a CEO. Those are the ones. You need to get people on all different levels, developers. In all different levels, you need to get a bunch of supporters. Otherwise, they will do something and they will make your life very hard.
Okay, let's go with the two more. How is this lean budgeting different from lean budgeting in...
It's the same.
It's the same?
It's the same.
Okay, that was fast. What approach you used to identify 12 startups?
Well, there was different things, so it was not very straightforward. It was based on company strategy, what they wanted to do, but there was a lot of architectural parts. So we tried to identify clusters that were independent from each other, right? But with its own business model. It was not easy, so the first step that we did was a very ugly one, which basically we brought 400 people into a room. We did a planning with OKRs for the 3 months, and we identified all the independencies between each teams, and then we started to see where the independence would end up, and basically we would create clusters where the independence would end up. So that was the first step. We did a proof of concept with that, and then we went with a much more structured approach, getting the help from the learnings that we got, plus the whole architecture designs, plus the business units guys, plus the strategy of the company. So it was something that took several months. It was not something very easy.
Okay, and I would go with the last one, as the previous answer was too fast. How long did it take to transform the whole company to a new startup structure, and how did the headcount change? That's interesting.
So the headcount did not change, because this is what people actually think. Well, the headcount will change, but at that time we did not change, because it first of all took, I was there 1.5 years, and we built really startups up and running with all this methodology, this blueprint that I showed you. We built 6 teams, because the way how we were doing it, we start with some, and then every 3 months we were onboarding a new cycle, a new cluster. Okay, so it took 1.5 years, 18 months for what I did. We left, I think, 6-7 startups. The headcount did not change because they did not go in that direction at that point, but the headcount will increase. Why it will increase? Because you change from a project mindset or project approach where you have a centralized team that is supporting a lot of different components or different products to a dedicated team. So you need to replicate skills all over the startups. Now you are telling me the costs will increase drastically. Yes, the cost will increase a lot, but you will reduce tremendous the time to market, reducing cost of delay, and you'll get a lot of the money out of the cost of delay. But good luck and a lot of patience to convince CFOs about it, because the CFOs will see Excel costs increasing tremendously. They will not understand the cost of delay, so you need to have a really open-minded CFO and a lot of patience.
Luis, thank you very much. I'd like to ask you if you're staying here for all day with us.
If I would stay here, when?
For the whole conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we can come with you in the panel discussion in the afternoon. Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It was Luis Gonçalves.